Hey, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for joining. Today I'm sharing another page in my Smash Book. I'm using the large red Smash Book, and the inside pages are 9 3/4 by 13 inches tall, and this page features a lot of die cuts. So I pre-planned everything that I was going to use in this layout. I don't always do that, just kind of depends, but in this one specifically, I did pre-plan everything. The only thing I wasn't sure about is which page I was going to use in the Smash Book. I knew I wanted it to be a light page, not a dark page. So using a light page, I wanted that cake to have a background, a black background. So I used my Silhouette Cameo to cut all of these die cuts out. And the photo I'm using, it looks a little dark on camera, but it's not that dark in real life. It's a 6.5 by 4.5 photo. It's a black and white photo, although the cake still has color in it. And this was a picture of my son's 19th birthday. The white matting is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. And the black mat is 5 by 7. I wanted it to have a black mat so it popped off the page, just like the background of the cake. So once I was happy with those matting, I will use my ATG to glue those down. For the cake itself, if you don't have an electronic die cutting machine, you can cut out 2 different size rectangles to make it look like a 2-layer cake, and then add some frosting and cut it with a wavy line to give yourself a similar look to this. For the paper collection with the cake, I'm using Echo Park's Party. I have the physical paper pack, but I believe in this I'm using strictly digital. I have the digital as well. So I'll link to that collection down in the description box. I'm using some art glitter glue in a fine tip bottle to adhere pieces together. I wanted this to have some dimension to it. So I added 2 layers of the base cake, and then of course that white layer just as a guide. You don't see any of the white when I'm done, but it's a guide to kind of make sure everything goes where it's supposed to go. For the 2 different layers of frosting, I am gluing 3 different layers together. Again, this will give it a little bit of dimension. And the cake itself has polka dots to it. I should have waited to glue the polka dots down before I put that blue polka dot piece itself down, the layer, the cake, or the frosting rather. But I wasn't thinking and I glued it down. It ended up working out because I just wanted one of the little polka dots to go behind it, which I was able to kind of tuck under, which you'll see here in just a moment. This bottom piece, it's like the pie plate. I cut from yellow and I wanted to run it through an embossing folder, so I used some Swiss dots on it. It turned out really cute. I did that with the candles and the balloons as well. I'm using the Paper Studio, Cuttlebug, and Doris. I don't know the names of them. I've had these for years and years in my stash, but I wanted to give a little texture to all of the die cuts. I did that with the polka dots that go on the cake as well. So like I said, this piece I should have waited, but it ended up working out. I'm going to use some pattern or cardstock, some solid colored cardstock, and using this balloon die, it's a stitched balloon die. I believe I got it from Amazon a long time ago. If I can find it, I'll link it down in the description. It comes with the little strings as well. So I ran that through using, like I said, some solid pieces of cardstock that match the paper collection, and I ran those pieces through embossing folders, giving them different embossing. These candle pieces are part of the entire large die cut, but in my Cameo, I just used the knife feature and cut it off the bottom because I didn't need that whole piece again in green, red, and yellow. So I just cut those off. That way I could add those pieces on underneath the frosting layer. And it does come with little flames, but I start to add one of the flames on, and I quickly realized that I had cut out yellow pieces that did not have embossing on them, that I wanted those to be solid. So here's the pieces here. I'm just cutting off just the flame part, and I just ripped that off. It didn't matter because luckily I had already print and cut several extra pieces just in case. So using my reverse tweezers and some art glitter glue, I'm going to add the flame parts themselves. That way it's solid cardstock. Has no embossing on it. And then I'll go back and add the little orange flame to that as well, to all three. I'm just using some acrylic blocks to kind of hold things in place to give them a minute to dry. And now I'm digging out the little polka dots and showing you that I had ran those through a Swiss Dots embossing folder just to give everything a little bit of texture. I'm using that frosting as a guide to where my polka dots go, but yet still show peeking out before I actually glue it down. For some reason that one moved, so I just pulled it back up and re-glued it. And I'm cutting some of the polka dots to make them look like they're going underneath the second layer of the cake, and on the side there as well. Here's where I was able to just kind of tuck that under. Like I said, if I was thinking I wouldn't have glued that down, but luckily that wasn't glued down really well there, so I just kind of picked it up and tucked it under. And as far as the left side, I'm not going to worry about adding some polka dots to that because my photo will be covering that, so I didn't want to waste it. So now I'm adding glue to that top part. I'll let that dry for a minute, and just adding one more little polka dot to make it look like it's coming up from the bottom of the pie plate or the cake plate. So here's the little strings that die cut with the balloons. I'm adding some glue to those and some clamps. I'm giving you a little bit closer look of that embossing on the balloons. It turned out really cute. Those little pink clamps that you see I get from the Dollar Tree. And I pulled out some baker's twine, but I didn't like the look of it, so I pulled out my stash and I found some yellow. It's from American Crafts. They call it ribbon, but it's more like twine. So I'm going to just tie off 3 little bows, add a little dot of glue behind it, and clamp those down. Give those a few minutes to dry. They turned out really cute. I did that with all 3 balloons. And when I set, what you don't see is when I set my container down with all that twine, I accidentally dropped it and they rolled all over my craft room floor, so I had to stop and pick all that up. Not fun. Here I'm using a Waffle Flowers Happy Birthday stamp set. It fit perfectly in the bottom there. I'm going to use some VersaFine black onyx ink, and I did place a fairly large acrylic block behind it, so I have some stability to stamp this down. Here's a little closer view. I also use the To My Favorite Person, part of the same stamp set, and I stamped that underneath. I'm using Cranberry from Concord and Ninth for that sub-sentiment to go underneath. I just stamped it off a couple times to make sure I have a good impression. And again, that acrylic block is behind there, giving me some stability. So I was really happy with how that turned out. And now I'm going to glue down my cake. I wanted it to stick off the edge a little, so I added, as you can see, a ton of glue, but I didn't add it to the very edge where it was going to be sticking off. And I'm just going to kind of put that a little bit crooked on my page. I did also cut some banners. I'll give you a closer look in a few minutes here, but I'm going to add these little banners to the top, or these little cutouts in shapes of banners to kind of make it look like it's going off the page there. Once it has a chance to dry, then I'll cut off the excess that's sticking up over the page. So I have the little flag and the circle shape. all within the same paper collection. So I did not add glue to the very top, knowing that I'm going to be cutting that off once it dries. So now that my balloons have had a chance to dry, I'm going to go ahead and adhere them to the page. I'm going to put 2 of them together and the other one to make it look like it's floating separate. And I want the balloon strings to go behind my photo. This page was fun to do because I love using all the primary colors and the pattern paper in it as well. So I'm just adjusting those balloons. I printed out a little tag using some more of that American Crafts ribbon or twine is what it, like I said, the texture is, in red. And I'm going to glue that to the tag, give that a chance to dry. I added 19 and my son's birthday to this little tag. This was also a print and cut from the same paper collection. I wanted to make that a little bit more sturdy, so I added a white piece of cardstock behind it, and I will also add matting to that. I thought about using black, but being that it would have been on the photo and it would have been a little dark, I thought it would be better to use a pop of color. So I'm going to use that same yellow that I used for the polka dots in the cake, and I'll add that behind that little tag. Here I'm just cutting off the edge of those little banner pieces, anything that was sticking over the edge. And I want to adhere down my photo. Being that the cake is a little bit dimensional, I needed to add foam to the one side, and then where it's adhered onto the cake, I added glue. That way the photo lays flat once it's adhered down. This was a picture of my son. I don't think I mentioned it. A picture of my son for his 19th birthday. So same thing with this tag. I needed to add a little bit of foam behind one side of it, and then I'm going to glue the other side directly onto the photo. And this little journaling tag, I'm just adding directly to the photo. So I went ahead and pulled out some enamel dots. I wanted to just kind of go through them and see what I could use up. I had lots of color choices to choose from as far as the pattern paper and the solid cardstock. So I was able to add some red and green and orange. Super cute. Here's a close-up of some of them. I clustered a few throughout the page. I have some self-adhesive enamel dots and then others that do not have adhesive on them, but on all of them I went ahead and used a little bit of art glitter glue to adhere them down just to make sure that they stay. So I'm varying the sizes. I'm using large, medium, and small. I'm going to add some to that top portion there as well. And here is a close-up. I used 2 clay hearts on either side of the 19. Thought that turned out super cute. So I'm going through and adding a few white highlights with my gel pen. And I'll give you a close-up view of the page and how it came together. It was super fun to use all these primary colors and die cuts. That's all there is to it. I will have another video at the end of this one if you'd like to stay and check that out. And you'll find links down in the description box. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel and leave me a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.